Hi, this is Emily Carney. I tried doing a live video on Facebook tonight, but for some reason the audio died on me and it froze up. So I think I might do, and for some reason the video is still reversed here. This is going to be ratchet, but that'll be okay. So this is episode 3 of This Space Available, and many people have asked me, how did you get to the point where you were doing, where you have been, where you got to Space Hipsters and when you started it. So, I guess I'll give y'all a little biography of me for this episode. Anyway, I was born in February 1978 in Clearwater, Florida. I live in St. Petersburg now, which is really not that far away. Anyway, my first space memory that, it's very vague, but I remember in mid-1979, vaguely when Skylab came down because people were just freaking out over it. Like, they thought it was gonna, people legitimately thought it was gonna hit their house and stuff like that. So, but it didn't, and of course the Earth is mostly water. I think parts of it did crash over Australia, but not much harm was done, thank God. So, anyway, my next space memory is very vivid. I remember in late 1981, we were living in Oldsmar, Florida. For those of you unfamiliar with Florida, Oldsmar is a little city in North Pinellas County, and I remember vaguely. I remember one morning, my mom was like, oh, the space shuttle's going up. Let's go outside and see it. So we go outside, and I see this little red, orange, kind of an orangish streak go up in the eastern part of the sky, situated where Kennedy Space Center is. And I remember thinking vividly, oh my God, that's a spaceship. That's a spaceship. That's so cool. And then I remember approximately 2 minutes later, these little things coming off of the thing, and that's the solid rocket boosters. And then you could see the engines light up, and that was STS-2. I saw STS-2 from where I lived in Oldsmar, so that was one of my first space memories. Very cool. Kind of an interesting side note. A few months ago, I ran into the commander of that mission, Joe Engel, in a bar in Cocoa Beach, at a tiki bar. It was for an ASF event. He was just chilling with his wife, and with his wife Jeannie, and I actually got to shake his hand, and it was so cool being able to finally see the person who kind of started your space obsession. So from that moment on, I was pretty much just obsessed with space. I had a bunch of space books. I had pictures of it on my wall. I was a total nerd, and I'm very unapologetic about that. I did go to Langley, the Langley Center, and I went to Kennedy Space Center as a kid. So, yeah, I was pretty much into space and science and stuff throughout my whole childhood. About my teenage years, I kind of lost the plot. I got more interested in can't believe I'm saying this. I got more interested in boys and music, pretty much. So yeah, pretty stupid. In high school, I really had no major. I wanted to be a writer, but I really had no major ambition or goal to do anything. I wasn't, I didn't have these major. Oh, I'm gonna go to college and I'm gonna get my master's and I'm gonna get my doctorate. I did not have anything like that. So around, I would say my senior year, the Navy recruiter came calling me, and I figured I might go to junior college. Maybe if I was lucky, I might transfer to, a university or something like that. But I didn't have I didn't have any money. I was broke as a joke. So the Navy recruiter called, and they were like, well, you've done pretty well in school, and your ASVAB tests are good. Why don't you take this nuclear qualification test? And not many people pass it. It's a long shot that you'll pass it, but you can try. So I ended up taking the test. and somehow I ended up passing it. So in April 1997, I ended up joining the Navy. And I was after a lot of schooling, I was a nuclear propulsion mechanical operator. I was a machinist mate. And what I'll say about the Navy is I loved it and had moments where I didn't like it. I I loved, the camaraderie. I loved my friends. I loved my job. I liked, what I was doing. Certain aspects of the leadership I did not like, but that's okay. In a way, it was a teaching experience, I should say, because it taught me, you know, as a somebody who had a future interest in leadership, what not to do and how not to treat people sometimes. So I try to look at it as a positive experience now, and I try not to be negative about it. So, and I was deployed to an aircraft carrier, the USS George Washington, and I did not reenlist. I did my 6 years, my enlistment, and I ended up in April 2003. I was honorably discharged. So when I got out of the Navy, I ended up going back to college. That was kind of my ultimate goal. I had the GI Bill and a college fund, and I got some grants and things like that. And I ended up getting my bachelor's in education. And then I went to go teach at a school. And I'm just going to be brutally honest. I absolutely hated it. Hated every second of it. I loved the students. It was not the kids at all. I loved my kids. It was all the other BS on top of it. Yeah, I won't get into too much detail, but I really did not enjoy myself. I did that for about a year. I think it's raining out if you hear that in the background, so I apologize. Anyhow, yeah, I was hating life. I'll just be honest. I got very depressed. I couldn't see myself doing this for 30 or so years because I just did not like it. So after about a year, I just walked away. I ended up quitting. And I am I happy to admit that? Not really, but it's the truth. I don't consider myself a quitter, but I just couldn't imagine myself being unhappy for about 30 years. And my husband understood. I don't know if he was terribly happy about it, but he understood and he supported me anyway. So after that, I was eating a lot of humble pie. I ended up freelancing and doing retail work and kind of odd jobs here and there to make ends meet. And in about late 2010, I was like, what do you like? What do you like to read about? What's one of your hobbies? And it was like, man, just write about space flight, man. Just write about space. It may not be any good at first, but just do your best. So I started a blog called This Space Available in late 2010, and I was very surprised. It actually did fairly decent. So people read it. If you look back at my early blog posts, I don't consider them really any good, but I think over the years you see an improvement. So, in keeping with that, in February 2011, I was just, I'm a kind of a goofball, and I started, I made these memes throughout the last year just about, silly stuff, astronauts and whatever. And I was like, man, I just want to start a kind of a frivolous flip group to put these memes together and stuff. So, I was talking to my husband one night, and I was like, man, what should I call this group? And he's like, just call it Space Hipsters, because you think you did everything first. Because you're a hipster. So I was like, okay, I'll name it that. But, if I don't like the name, I can get rid of it. So, the name ended up sticking. The group ended up developing a following much more quickly than I thought it would. And as of now, we have over 8,800 members. 8,800 members, which to me is just crazy. That's like a stadium concert. So, yeah. So, in the last 6 years, a lot of crazy things have happened that have been really good. The last year was just overwhelming, almost. Many of you know some of the things that have happened. I was able to go to Space Fest. I moderated a panel there, which was just the Skylab panel, and that just was just mind blowing. And we had a we also we had some other accomplishments last year, which were pretty mind blowing as well. So I'm trying to stay humble here. I don't want people to be like, "Wow, she's just crazy." So yeah, it's been a heck of a ride over the last 6 years, and yeah, so that is, in a nutshell, the journey to Space Hipsters. Many of you have asked, how did you get to, do this and stuff like that. That's pretty much the answer. When I quit teaching a few years ago, I'll be very honest. I was really down in the dumps. I really thought I was 31 years old, and I was like, man, my life is over. Because I thought that, I got my degree in that. That's what I have to do with my life. And I couldn't really see a way out of it. But, I was very blessed. My family was very supportive. And even though I'm sure me walking out of my job was not a popular decision, it was probably for the best. So yeah. So in a way, that failure kind of contributed to me doing other things that were meaningful. So anyway, that there is the journey to Space Hipsters. So I guess that's episode 3 of The Space Available. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week. I'm hoping to do another episode next week. I apologize if I look a little rough right now, but it is Tuesday night, and I worked all day today. So anyway, but at least it's real. All right, I love you guys. Thank you, and I'll talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.